right. Today was a kind of a back and forth practice in good and bad parts of it. I thought we tried to create some competitive situations, red zone, 2-minute, third downs, trying to, as we're leading into scrimmage, really want to see guys take another step as we get the next opportunity to go out there and have to compete. And so I wanted to throughout this week just force the knowledge of and the ownership of downs and the ownership of situations where you are on the field. I thought there was good competitive response. I thought in the red zone work, the offense won that period, and I thought they did a good job. Energy, all parts of it. Came back with third downs. The defense was dominant in that. Was that kind of did a middle 8 2-minute and a half situations, kind of introducing that as we're working through spring, and the defense was able to get get a couple stops. We saw some good plays on both sides of the ball throughout the day. But it's one of those things, we find those times where maybe it's not quite the edge or not quite the attention to detail or focus that's necessary, and you gotta jump into that, and you've got to correct it. You got to push for the proper response, and understand that you don't get second chances at it. And I didn't think today was a bad practice. I thought there were moments where we have to be better, and that's where the football team, as the guys that are pushing and desiring to be leaders within groups, we've got to answer that call. And I thought there were some examples of that today, but still want more. I thought the quarterbacks, really had a pretty good day. Today was really the first day where I thought there was a couple. I know we had 2 drops that were big play opportunities, and we gotta eliminate those things that show up. And I thought the quarterbacks did a good job of managing pressure, of managing different situations, giving guys opportunities to go make plays. I thought all 3 of them had good moments throughout the course of practice. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for them to continue to grow through the back half of spring from what they've shown up to this point, and very competitive. And I see a quarterback group that's out there pushing to make people better, so that's exciting to see. And all in all, I thought it was an overall good day. We just got to clean up some of those, say, lulls, but missed opportunities throughout practice.
When you talk about looking for more, or do you mean more in terms of focus and execution, or more, or sometimes even just effort?
It's more it's the edge. It's not necessarily, I've talked a lot this offseason about the edge. It's the every little bit that you have and a little bit more. It's the attention to detail. Sometimes it might be the focus. It might, if you have a, third and long situation, it's just the understanding, urgency, the everything, planned through your mind before you get to it, and then being ready to go, put it on display. And so, and then there's times where you might have a long drive, or where you're feeling tired, and you know what, you might not ultimately want to have to go and empty the tank one more, but you get to make the choice to. And it's just hoping guys train themselves for more, for best, for everything that they have. I mean, if they got to get picked up and drug off the field at the end of it, they've emptied the tank on every situation, every play. I want that. And if you see, I mean, there's more. You can go through a practice, you can go through situations, and you can be present, or you can put everything that you have into that moment, just like it's going to be when it's August 30th and you got a sold out Doak Campbell Stadium, and everything's on the line in the moment of truth. Are you bringing that same emotion? And if you bring that same focus, that same energy, so it's all of it. And like I said, there wasn't just one thing that stood out because it happened on both sides of the ball at different times today. And it's just it's the ownership of the play. It's the ownership of the performance and what you're willing to give. And there's times we talked a little bit after practice about respect. And there's a there's a respect of this program of what things need to look like and what it need to be, and we have to earn it. And we have to earn it every single day. I've got to earn our players' respect. They've got to earn the coaches' respect. You know, obviously we get to earn respect with how we play and what we do. And you know, there's an appreciation for, you know, where we are and what we get to represent. So I mean, that needs to be put on display, even when you don't feel good, even when, you know, you might find yourself in a challenging, you know, circumstance. You know, you look back and, you know, been through seasons where they're, you know, undefeated regular season championship game, and you know, I look at that team and there's 4 times we were down 10 points. One of the times it was to an FCS opponent. But what did we do in that moment? Like, what did we do in that moment? Where do you go when you have guys that it doesn't matter who, what, when, where? Like, it's about the response, it's about the next play, it's about, you know, that toughness that's been created and developed. You know, that those things have to be earned, and that's what we're fighting to earn.
Brendan?
When you talk about the quarterbacks collectively pushing to make teammates better, to help make them better, what does that look like?
You know, it's part of the attitude, approach, preparation, making sure that whenever they have a chance to locate a ball, when they have a chance to make a decision, when you see guys, you know, extending plays, you know, let's say, I mean, there's a couple times today where, you know, we didn't, you know, defensively did a good job matching routes, guys covering up, you know, receivers, you know, just having to extend and or try to you know, create separation to get open. And when a quarterback does everything they can, we might have good protection, but you know what, they got to go give a little bit more, and you know, they got to find an opportunity to create a play for this offense and put the ball where it needs to be, and you know, just making everybody around them better. And there's especially, and it's an ownership, and that's one of the things that we challenge the quarterbacks with, is that, you know, that they're going to make mistakes too. And you know, when you can stand in front of a group, you can stand, you know, whether it's another position, side of ball, you know, stand in front of a team and take ownership of your action, but you know, also pour in and build the confidence of what's next with those guys around you. I mean, that's the spark that's sometimes necessary. And so I think those guys they're really embracing that, and you see that it elevates guys that are around.
Following up on that, you mentioned leadership in your opening statement. What did you see from some of those guys during the lulls, and also were you happy with some of those responses from the leaders?
Yeah, I mean, I thought today was I thought there's some good responses throughout the course of practice, and you know, you hear guys. You know, I want to continue to see guys. You know, even, you know, there's some newcomers that, you know, in some aspects, you know, they're still even young guys that I see the spark, I see the and it's a willingness to put themselves out there. But you know, we've had tremendous leaders here that haven't been the most vocal people, but you know, you felt their presence of work, and you know, that's what I'm looking for, and it becomes contagious. You know, I mean, I think Tatum Bethune was not the most vocal person, but when you were out on the practice field, when it was time to go, you felt him, and he was, you know, his energy, approach, the intensity, you know, and I think we've got guys that I absolutely know will speak, and guys that will challenge, and guys that will lift up, and we need that in this team, but it's also some guys that are coming along in their own right that, you know, right now it's just the actions that are leading it, and you know, that we got great potential there.
All right, we have time for a couple more. Corey?
Well, on Saturday, will the scrimmage look and feel a lot like last Saturday, or do you try to do something
No,
different?
I'm probably gonna. I mean, you know, we are limited, you know, just with space. You know, we have to go one direction. You know, just with the indoors. You know, I'm gonna have a plan in the fall, probably to be a little bit more game-like. You know, as we get in those scrimmages, just my preliminary thoughts of it. You know, we'll see where we are once we get to it. But you know, right now, you know, with punting and doing some of the things that you would have throughout the course. I mean, we're just it's probably gonna be more similar to what it was last week. You know, situations, putting guys into it, try to get, you know, as much of a flow as possible. But you know, it's kind of, we are where we are.
Yeah. Last one, Ira.
Early in spring, you guys talked about Javon Boggs and, you know, some of the other young receivers getting opportunities, and what have you seen from that group?
I think it's what we needed. young guys that have come in and, you know, have proven that they are ready to compete. And, you know, I think Jalen, you know, he's done really well, you know, I mean, you see, like, you know, there's still more, I mean, you know, he's not a finished product right now, but you see the competition, you feel his presence, you know, he's made some big plays here in, you know, first 8 practices, you know, today, you know, there's one that I'm sure that he'd love to have back, you know, just in a situation, but, you know, it's the growth, and, I mean, you know, I can see already, he's not one that gets rattled. He's, you know, if he has a good play, bad play, whatever it is, he wants to get coached, he wants to go get better. Tayshawn Gelsey, very similar. I mean, I'm excited about, you know, a guy with his size and, you know, ability. I mean, what that's gonna look like here, you know, leading into August 30th. I'm very excited that he's here and pushing this group. Chase Lofton, another guy that's, you know, in early that, you know, I mean, he's gonna be on the fast track. He's doing things that need to be done. It's a talented room, but, you know, I like what I'm seeing from him and just the impact. So, you know, just kind of talking about some of those young pass catchers, you know, and it's good. You know, I think Camden Fryer's a guy that's actually done some good things. You hear, you know, coming off an injury that, you know, we didn't know how much we'd get here early, but, you know, he's a competitor and he's out there fighting hard and been doing some good things. I know I mentioned, you know, Jalen Brown, because all those guys are still young. You know, Luane's been, you know, been out for a little bit, and you know, for just the injury. So, but you know, I've definitely, all the things I've seen from him makes me very excited. You know, about Elijah Moore's come along. So, I mean, I'm excited about where that group can go. You know, it's just the consistency of going and getting it done.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll have Amari Williams